This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs. This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles show. This is episode 497. My name is Daniel Spikowski. I'm the founder of Special Chronicles and the Special Olympics Sargent Shriver International Global Messenger from the North America region. Before we begin and welcome our guests, a few housekeeping reminders. Visit specialchronicles.com for links to follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure to also subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, Special Chronicles, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. In addition, listen to the audio podcast. We hope you subscribe to our channel on YouTube to watch the live stream video episodes. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com for links to subscribe and follow. Our guests, our returning guests this week on the Special Chronicles podcast is our friend, Special Olympics Chief of Sport and Competition at Special Olympics International, Lou, along and also fellow SSIGM from the Europe Eurasia region, Ian, representing the Europe Eurasia region of Special Olympics. So please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Lou and Ian back to the Special Chronicles show. Welcome back, Lou and Ian. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Guten Tag. Very much.
I'm sure listeners can go back. I think we're approaching the 500th official episode in probably a few weeks. And I forgot which episodes both of you were on, and I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes on specialchronicles.com for episode 497. But Lou, maybe do you want to start off and share with our listeners, for any new listeners, how all three of us got connected?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic story. So the three of us were in Abu Dhabi for the World Games, and we were at a reception at the German embassy because Berlin was hosting next. So they had all the dignitaries there. It was a nice reception. And I was standing down by the water with a colleague of mine, Paul Freudensprung. We were just having a quiet chat. We were probably 25 meters away from anybody else. And these two fellows walked up and introduced themselves. Hi, I'm Ian Harper. Hi, I'm Dan. And it was fantastic, because I remember telling Paul, we had a great conversation. It was fantastic. And, we've been friends ever since. But I remember telling Paul that I'm fundamentally shy, and I would have never in a million years walked 25 meters across the grass to say hi to somebody I didn't know. I'm always the second guy in, or the second person in. So if I was with Ian and Ian said hi, I'm happy to jump in afterwards and we can have a few laughs and talk football or whatever. But yeah, Ian, the first person in, that is so not me. So I had all the respect in the world for you guys, just going, I don't know, two guys down there, let's go see what's going on. So that's how we met.
Awesome. So, Ian, do you want to reintroduce yourself to our listeners who may just be tuning in right now?
Absolutely. Great to be back on the program. But for those of you who have not seen the show before, I'm Ian Harper, and I'm also the Sargent Shriver International Global Messenger for Special Olympics. I cover the Europe Eurasia region. That means I represent 58 countries from to Azerbaijan and from Norway to Spain.
Awesome. And Lou, do you want to remind our listeners what your job and role at Special Olympics International is?
Sure. So we have a sport and competition department, and I head up all of our sport and competition. So globally, it's the on the sports side, the development of sport partnerships, sport rules, all the competition management, coaching education. We got a great coaching webinar going on now that Fiona and the team are leading. And then on the competition side, all the games planning, all the bidding process, all the strategy, the development of like the Unified Cup. And we have some more single sport events coming up, which we can talk about. So that's what myself and the team do.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and take a short break to let our listeners know how they can support this program. And when we come back, we'll talk about the main topic for this episode, which is about World Games in 2023 in Berlin. So our guests are Ian Harper and Lou from Special Olympics, and we'll be right back after this short break. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today. And back to the show. Our guests this week on the Special Chronicles program are my good friends Ian and Lou. And again, maybe we bring you on, Ian, to talk about your preparations for the upcoming World Games. We'll maybe have Lou, you kick it off and tell us how Berlin came to be the host city for the 2023 Special Olympics World Games.
Sure, happy to do so. So I first met with Special Olympics Germany during the games in Austria. So back in 2017, Sven and I had a coffee and talked about what a bid might look like and sort of where we were. At that time, we were going through a process of building new bid materials and everything. So the Special Olympics Germany team went off and they started to develop a bid with the German government, with the city of Berlin. The city of Berlin has all these criteria for hosting. We met all these criteria, so we're happy to help fund the event. I think the thing that was interesting is what they did at their national games prior to putting in the bid is they have 4,000 athletes at their national games. They polled all the athletes, or surveyed all the athletes that were at the game, surveyed all the other athletes to find why and what the athletes wanted, why the athletes wanted a bid, why they thought it was important to host the games, and what they wanted to see in those games. And it was all about athlete leadership, which was the driving force of this bid. If you go to the bid book, there's probably about 10 pages that are just excerpts from those surveys. And they've got now athletes are involved in every committee they have. And I sat in on a few of those meetings, and there were some great ideas about what the athletes of Special Olympics Germany wanted to show the world when they came to Berlin and everything. So it was very much an athlete-driven bid. Special Olympics Germany is a very strong program. They help drive the UN Sustainable Development Goals in Germany and everything. So really all a well-rounded bid, and it's going to leave a great legacy for athlete leadership.
Awesome. I know two things we bring you on, Ian. When the first Unified Cup took place in Chicago, I recall, I think two of the people that I interviewed was a coach and an athlete from Special Olympics Germany. And then when we kind of back the story you shared at the top of the program about meeting Ian and me at the Berlin reception in Abu Dhabi, I think the picture that we're going to share with this episode is a picture of Ian and I with a Germany athlete. So let's bring you on, Ian, and what and share what you're doing to prepare for the upcoming World Games, since this is happening in your region.
Thank you, Sunshine, for that question. Well, basically, because obviously the World Summer Games is going to be in my region, which is in Europe Eurasia. It's quite a big event, and it will be the third time that Berlin would have hosted. Third time that the World Games has come to Europe, after Dublin in 2003 and then Athens in 2011. So that is quite an historic moment for us. I've been to Berlin twice this year, obviously, which I'll get to the July one a bit later as we go along. Mm-hmm. The one in first, I actually went with Tim Shriver, our Special Olympics chairman, our spiritual guru, who helps us make sure we drive the inclusion revolution on a daily basis. Hello, Tim, if you're watching. And we did about 13 meetings in the space of 4 days, working from early till late, basically, meeting up with government departments meeting up with government departments. We went to the state parliament in Berlin. We've held meetings with sponsors. We met with the German athletes, and it's really, really good as well. And I think the other thing that's important, athlete leadership is important for one, but the other thing which I learned was absolutely shocking, and this needs to be thought of, is that I found out that in Germany, only 8% of people with intellectual differences, determination, or disability, however you wish to put it as, have access to sports clubs each and every week. Only 8% across the German population with an intellectual differences, which, if you think about it, quite shocking. And so these games are about sending a message to open up more sports clubs and bring more inclusion to all the people, so they can access in sports in terms of getting fit, healthy lifestyle, you name it, and all that sort of stuff. So that in April was an eye-opener. It was a real eye-opener, awesome. And important legacy for it.
Awesome. So kind of speaking to that, Lou, can you maybe kind of speak to what Ian said and how you and your team are preparing for these World Games, with kind of speaking to some of what Ian just shared with us?
Sure. So happy to. And Ian brings up a great point. That's why the host town program is so important for them, because the host town is going to get delegations spread all over Germany. They really want to strengthen the sub programs. And by having the host town and having these small towns and cities all across Germany experience what we do, that's going to open up access to the sports clubs. That's going to raise awareness. That's going to strengthen Special Olympics Germany, and it's going to get more athletes into the movement and doing sports. So it's really important work. As to the planning, I mean, it was challenging. We went over there. It was challenging the games agreement, and then we weren't able to get back there due to the pandemic for almost 2 years. So it's been a challenging environment, not being able to sit across the table, not being able to go out and walk the venues and see the spaces. And but now we're back, and we started going back over. We've had a couple trips. We'll have one more in December. They're facing, the conflict in the Ukraine, global inflation. Everybody's getting hit with that, so their budget's increased. But they're holding fast, and we're working to look at ways like reducing costs to try and help them out there. So we're excited. It's going to be. We've had other events. We've had the Invitational Games in Malta, which were great. We had the USA Games. We had the Unified Cup. We've had other events, but to have the World Games next summer is going to be spectacular. From getting us back on the main stage and you guys doing what you do. So I wanted to give one shout out to Nyasha.
What do you and you both can? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Nyasha. So Nyasha completed the Berlin Marathon this past weekend. Absolute privilege and honor to work for all you guys, especially Nyasha, chair of the Global Athlete Leadership Council, SOI board member. And at the signing event, he mentioned in passing wanting to run the marathon. He put the work in. He went out and ran the marathon. Also wanted to give kudos to all the athletes that came to London. We had a lot of Special Olympics athletes coming to London to run the London Marathon, the New York Marathon. So you guys just keep doing what you're doing and putting the work in. So it's fantastic. Anyway,
Awesome.
sorry,
No. I'm glad you brought that up because I made a note about Nyasha winning the Berlin Marathon. So I'm glad. Are you with either with Nyasha winning the Berlin Marathon or the marathon in London? Using any of these events I'm picking up a little bit.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit. Sorry.
Okay. I was going to say with Nyasha winning the Berlin Marathon and the athletes winning the London Marathon, are you using any of these to kind of help, either to help motivate or help with awareness and even fundraising as well for the Berlin World Games?
Yeah, so we Nyasha participating in the Berlin Marathon. There was a lot of media around it. He met with the world record holder, and the Berlin 2023 team did a good job of getting a lot of German media. SOI picked it up on social media. And then as far as other athletes running London, it was an athlete from Florida who ran London. So I'm not much of a social media guy. I'm on LinkedIn, and that's about it at this point. But I scrolled LinkedIn and saw there was a lot of interaction and different athletes going over and running races. So it's great. Anything we can do to bring, just to raise people's expectations, right? To know that people with disabilities can run marathons, can do triathlons, can do anything they want. So this is a fantastic achievement.
Awesome. We're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, we will get into talking a little bit more about some of the details about the sports, both the all the different sports that will be offered at the Berlin 2023 World Games, as well as some of the non-sport events, as well as athlete leadership as well. So we'll kind of we'll continue and cover it all after this first break with Lou and Ian on the Special Chronicles show. So we'll be right back on Special Chronicles.
Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on, and our technology is powered on. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on, and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they are literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd.
Apparently, our sponsor break plays on a loop. Well, we couldn't do this podcast without our supporters. So if you all want to join our supporters, specialchronicles.com/give is yeah. Okay. With that, let's continue, and Lou, can you share with us about how many sports and share about some of the different sport venues that have been offered?
Yeah, sure. So we were there for the German national games in June, and they had about 5,000 athletes. We had the German athletes, and then we had 13 international delegations going. And the German, as far as the venues, we'll be out at the Olympic Park for some of the sports. We'll have the opening ceremonies at the Olympic Stadium, which is an iconic stadium from the 1936 Olympics. A lot of the other events will take place at the Messe, which is like a convention and sort of exhibition space. So we'll have basketball and some of the other sports there. And then we'll have our road cycling and other sports down by the Brandenburg Gate, which is another iconic landmark in Berlin. So we're really excited. We're going to introduce some sport impact standards to try and improve the quality of sport. So we're doing more with sports statistics. The Unified Cup was the third event where we had statistics. So you could tell who took the corner kicks, who had an assist, how many stops the keeper made. We're going to do that for about 6 sports in Berlin. We're doing performance and recovery stations. We did them at the Unified Cup. So before the athletes get ready to go out and compete, they can get stretched. They can have access to hydration and everything else they need to go out and perform at their best. Then after they come off the pitch, they can have access to massage and physios and they'll be able to cover. The other thing we're doing is with the Badminton World Federation, the BWF, which is one of our partners. We've gotten them to communicate to the national federations. So we'll use Ian as an example in Great Britain. The Special Olympics Great Britain has a partnership with Great Britain Badminton. What we're saying is if you have this existing partnership in the 6 months prior to the World Games, can you work with the coaches? Can you work with the athletes? Can you get them on a training program? So when they get off the plane in Berlin, they're playing their best badminton, right? Because that's what it's, no matter the ability level, just being able to perform at your best when you get there. And that quality doesn't start at the Berlin airport. It starts when you get selected, putting the time in, working with your coach, and doing all those things. So we're going to pilot about 6 sports in Berlin, and then we're going to increase it, right? We went from the Unified Cup, the first time we had statistics, to the Unified Cup again, and we did something in floorball in Sweden. And now we're going to really grow this.
Awesome. We'll come back to you, Lou. But I mean, to bring Ian in. Ian, do you want to show? You had mentioned earlier on in the program about one of the other events that you did. I think you said this past July to prepare for the World Games in Berlin.
Yes, that's right. Obviously, the second time in June, I was back in Berlin, and Nyasha joined me in during the national game. So me and Nyasha were there to, if you like, to see a test run of the World Games, because the national games is normally like a test run that would be able to see what things are there, what improvements needs to be made, and so on. And I've got to say, from that point, we did loads of stuff together. Me and Nyasha did over the course of 5-6 days. We were responsible for giving out some medals to the competitors. I think we were at rowing. I think we did rowing. We did bowling, and I think we also did tennis as well. We also had to give press conference interviews, obviously, which was great. But the only thing that went wrong was that the translation headphones weren't working. But luckily, we were well prepared for the questions, so we were able to visually in answer because we learned it in the car on the way up, so that was fine. And we also did a huge promotion as well, talking to businesses, organisations, and delegates from around Germany. So we met with the LOC. Which they are a really good, dedicated team. We met with as many athletes as possible, which obviously is important, and obviously trying to learn some German languages as well while we was there, take advantage. And we also met with various coaches and international delegates from around the country. I mean, the opening ceremony was held at the FC Union Berlin soccer stadium for the opening ceremony, which was for a warm-up for next year. It was very, very good. It was well organised. They really put on a carnival spectacular, and I would say that if they did it similar to the World Games next year at the Olympic Stadium with a capacity of 74,000. Yeah, I always do my homework before I come on this.
Awesome. To bring you in, Lou, do you want to comment on some of what Ian shared of when Ian and even the we'll see and
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Dan, as it relates to the test games.
Yeah. As it relates to the test games.
Yeah, the test games were good. I mean, they need the volunteers. There was some challenges recruiting volunteers, so they're going to focus on that. But overall, the service levels were good. All the overlay, all the temporary structures, healthy athletes ran well. All the ancillary events, the 13 delegations that were international, all really rated it highly. They did surveys. Transport ran well, and overall, I think everybody was happy. I think everybody was happy.
Awesome. And so can you remind our listeners how many different sport venues are going to be offered at the Berlin World Games?
The number of venues I'd have to check. It's going to be somewhere in that 24 to 26 number. I'd have to. Sometimes they're doing two sports.
Awesome. And then can you talk to us a little bit about some of the non-sport events, including I think Emily had told us that the Global Athlete Congress is going to also take place during these World Games. Can you share with us about some of the non-sport events in addition to the Global Athlete Congress?
Sure. So we're having a global forum. There's this global coalition that David Evangelista, who runs SOEE, and Sean Ferguson, who runs global government relations for us, have put together. In fact, they just met in Cairo last week, and it's a coalition to go and help find governments who are willing to invest in the education, the inclusive education, and the unified schools work that we do. So they're going to have a big summit with a lot of ministers and those types at that event. Obviously, we've got healthy athletes, we've got LETR, all the stuff you come to expect with a lot of ministers from the World Games. I'm really looking forward to the Global Athlete Leadership Council. I had the chance to go in the Dominican Republic at the tennis event and sat in a few of those sessions and was fortunate enough to watch Nyasha get elected. So I found that to be really interesting. And the more time I can spend around the athletes, the happier I'm going to be. So that should be good.
Awesome. Ian, did you want to comment on that? I'd never been to a Global Athlete Congress before, but Ian, do you want to comment on?
Yeah, I was going to say before I answer that question, I have managed to work out the answer for you, Lou. It's there's going to be 26 sports at 8 different venues in Berlin. So, I've just checked the homework on the computer while he was talking. So I thought I better have a.
Here we go. Unified podcasting. Ian and I.
Exactly.
Good work, man.
Yes. See. Thanks. Yeah, that's why it's good to have a unified guest on.
Yeah, because just before we found out that me and Nyasha was going to be international global messengers, me and him became friends in 2018, and I remember he was at the Dominican Republic, and obviously the previous chair, Matthew Williams, was stepping down from the position, and basically I remember when Nyasha got it in quite what was an emotional moment for him, because he never expected to land the job. And I remember him messaging me afterwards, and I said, and I remember him saying, what advice can you give me? And I just said, just be yourself as chair. Never try and be anybody else that have gone before you. Just yourself. And because I think it's important. If you're yourself, you get more out of you than you would do if you were trying to impersonate somebody else. And no, don't panic, we're not doing impersonations on this program, so don't worry. So I think the Global Athletes Congress Committee is really important, really, really important. And I think even more so at a time like this, because obviously, as Lou correctly mentioned, we've got the situation in Ukraine with the war going on. We've also got the cost of living crisis. And there was loads of other things, the factors as well, including Germany's big stability on the environment. And I think maybe there should be a Special Olympics commitment specifically for the environment in the future, because, it's a case of how can we bring inclusion for all people with intellectual determination if we ain't got no planet to live whatsoever. And it's an important point. But the Global Athletes Congress Council is very, very important, because I think Global Athletes Congress Council is very about the opportunity for all of the groups to represent them regionally. So, for example, Kira Byland sits on the Global Athletes Congress Committee. representing Europe Eurasia, and she gives a lot of good feedback and reviews as well. I'll tell you, for example, and all the stuff she brings back is positive and gets us to challenge questions on the like what, for example, we had it back recently, what motto would be for the slogan for next year's World Games. So they asked us to pass it back. So yeah, it's good.
We are going to bypass our second break just for the sake of time. But Lou, I wanted to bring up something else that I'm sure a lot of our listeners I know my mom is going to be coming and volunteering at the World Games for the first time. But like Ian mentioned, with the war going on in Ukraine and with Russia, you share with us a little bit about what Special Olympics is doing, what the LLC is doing, what International is doing, to keep everyone safe? Like, is there any new kind of up to a new level of safety that to keep all of us athletes safe, keep everyone safe coming in for these World Games?
Sure, and you raise a good point because we're living in challenging times in this regard. But our event is rated nationally by the German government, so the national security planning that's going to go into it, from the city of Berlin to the state to the federal level, as far as access and everything else in the country, and all the sort of monitoring and everything else you have to do nowadays will be in place. And Germany is a safe country, and we don't anticipate any challenges, but you always have to plan and be prepared. And it's good to know that we're on the radar of all the security forces and sort of everybody in Germany to plan accordingly. So I don't have any real concerns there. I mean, you can never be too sure in the times we're living in, but we think it's going to be a good event. And I'm glad you
awesome. Also, I know. I'm glad. I think my sister, one of my sisters, is also coming too, and my mom actually studied in Germany her last year of high school. So,
okay.
And she used to teach German in school. So
Berlin's a great city. I mean, Ian can tell you, Berlin's a top city, a real world capital. Lots to see, lots to do. Get any kind of food in the world there. It's very, very diverse. So, yeah.
Awesome. So before we get to that final question that we always conclude with, we'll conclude with some plugs of listeners listening, and they want to get involved. I know when we had a fundraiser here in our program a couple months ago, I think back in August, we had at all the Dunkin' locations, which Ian might not know what Dunkin' is, but it's like a coffee donut shop. I'm sure, Lou, you have seen where the law enforcement goes on the rooftops. And I ran into somebody that had stopped by. She told me that she not only did she go down to Orlando to volunteer to the USA game, but she was going to be going to Berlin to volunteer at the World Games.
That's fantastic.
So
here's a little piece of legacy. Ian brought up the 3 games that have been in Europe, the 3 summer games. So from Dublin 2003 to Berlin 2023, we've got 20 years of the games, being outside the States and going global. But one of the legacies from Ireland, and there's a whole laundry list of great legacies from 2003. But Special Olympics Ireland sends over a couple hundred volunteers to every World Games. I remember when they showed up in Abu Dhabi, they all come, it's a big fundraiser, right? They all sort of fundraise, they all get together, and they send over these community of volunteers that come in. It's a great help to the organizing committee. It's fantastic to see the international spirit and everything else that it injects. So there'll be Irish volunteers. Obviously, there'll be now volunteers from Chicago and people come from all over the world, which is a beautiful thing.
Awesome. And how can Lou, how our listeners can I'm trying to put the banner up here on the screen, but you want to share with our listeners how they can connect with the upcoming Special Olympics World Games in Berlin. We mind the dates and how they can get involved to volunteer. I know my mom, my mom is already for months now. She's already signed up to get all the updates on volunteers. But for listeners who may not have done that yet, share with them the dates as well as where they can go to sign up to volunteer and get more information.
Sure. So if you go to the Berlin2023.org website, and then if you click on Join In, there'll be a drop down from the Join In, and it will show you how to get involved, how to apply to be a volunteer, and all those sort of details. But no, I think it's great. I think it's a great experience. I think it's a great experience for the volunteer. I think it's just a great experience for the event itself. And I got to say, some of my favorite moments, and I've worked in events for a long time, are the relationships that form with the volunteers. It's just about everybody gets on, and it's it's a great part of being in this event business. Really enjoy it.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to include links in the show notes on specialchronicles.com/podcast 497. That's 497. Ian, to bring you on, do you want to share with our listeners and remind them the dates for the upcoming World Games, as well as where they can go to connect with their local Special Olympics program?
Absolutely. So basically, the games will be, people will be arriving on the 16th of June next year. And we've got the opening ceremony the next day on the 17th, which is held at the Olympia Stadium, which holds 74,000 people capacity and was held, of course, for the 1936 Olympic Games. The official ceremony will be opened by the President of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, from the SPD, the Socialists and Democrats. Again, I do know my homework very well. There's going to be an action-packed event. There's going to be an action-packed event as well. There's going to be loads of excitement, not just on the sporting field, and I know people will be dying to get medals and rosettes and what have you, and also off-duty activities as well. So we've got athlete leadership as well, of course, youth leadership and everywhere else and in. On the 24th of June, we have the closing ceremony. I do now believe that the Brandenburg Gates, the road that leads to Berlin, they will be closing the roads off for the closing ceremony to traffic, and we will be using it at our not only as a celebration of how successful the games are, of the inclusion revolution movement that we live and breed every day. Obviously, in my case, it will be the Inclusion Revolution rally, because that's where we're all here to gather and to celebrate as well. So that will be on the 24th, and then of course everybody will be back on the 25th of June. I will say a couple of things before we conclude, if it's all right with you, Daniel.
Yeah.
As Lou correctly said, if you know or your family know more about volunteering and you are interested in volunteering, then I would urge you to go to the website at Berlin2023.org and follow the links, because Special Olympics Germany obviously would like more volunteers. So if you are interested, please follow the links and sign up. Believe me, being a volunteer is a mind-blowing experience, and it's an amazing opportunity for the athletes and to get to know them and to enjoy the lively activity as well. So if you are interested in volunteering, go to Berlin2023.org. And lastly, as well, for the crucial element of history, in 1989, the Berlin Wall famously collapsed as a result of the end of the Soviet Union. And then, obviously, a year later, in 1990, East Germany and West Germany unified to become the Republic of Germany. Now, 33 years later, and now as the leading member of the European Union, Germany will be hosting a second unified event on the world stage in the form of the Special Olympics World Games, and also which does include unified leadership as well. And I think if anything has come out of this from what has happened in the last few years, is that this is a big wake-up call for us, and that the Games in Berlin is going to be extremely crucial for us because we want to show that a lot of people with intellectual disabilities across the world want access to jobs, want access to healthcare, transport, education, sports clubs. I mean, some could even go into politics if they're brave enough, which I know that they are as well. They have that voice to do that as well.
Awesome.
And a really, really big opportunity as well for us. And so this is, if you like, a first important step, not only that this will be the first major world event since the COVID-19 pandemic, but also in the fact that we're sending a solidarity of message to in the wake of the war in Ukraine, saying that we will never accept dictatorship and we will never accept exclusion. That this is a message that we want democracy, full inclusion, and full participation. And so anybody who is interested in going to the games, I would urge you to get tickets and go over to see the games in Berlin, because it's a life changer. And believe me, once you've met athletes and once you've met some of the SSIGMs, obviously you've got me and Dan, with the rest following in the new year, when we get to the games next June, it will change your life. It will be more educational, and it will give a fabulous opportunity to really say that we want to bring more inclusion to people with intellectual differences in society. And so these games will be very crucial.
Absolutely. Well, that's a perfect way to kind of tee up our final question. If you want to connect with your local Special Olympics program, 2023.org, you can go to specialolympics.org to find your local program. And now to introduce that final question, we're going to go ahead and play that bumper to introduce the final question.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference. Our demands are
equality,
dignity, and the recognition of our shared humanity.
We will not stop or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And ever since this 2019 World Games in Abu Dhabi, where we all three of us met, we always conclude these podcast episodes with a final question. And I'm going to kind of combine the final two questions kind of in one, so you both can kind of comment. And that is, one, any final thoughts on your overall time here today? And then what does, because we know the inclusion revolution is a big part of our Special Olympics movement. So what does inclusion mean to each of you? We'll begin with Lou, and then we'll go to Ian.
So Dan, what was the first part of the question?
The first part of the question is any final thoughts on coming back on this program, and then what does inclusion mean to you?
Sure. No, always happy to come on. So I'm always here. You need somebody, you want to find something out, I can get you other people. So if there's other people you want to talk to, let me know. I'm happy. I love the podcast. So happy to do anything I can. I did one. There's a couple of athletes at SO Maryland that had a podcast. I jumped on that during the pandemic. So completely wide open to do all this stuff. I love it. As far as what inclusion means to me, I mean, I think it's just fundamental, right? It's getting to understand other people, be it other people of different backgrounds, different cultures, different socioeconomic classes, different races, different religions, different sort of abilities. So it's just a natural extension of that, right? I think one of the challenges that we have in society is that people tend to only sort of associate or have meaningful relationships with people that are in whatever group that they're in, and there's not enough understanding of other people and sort of that. So for me, I mean, hanging out with you guys, talking football with Ian, do that all day. So it's I guess that's what inclusion means, just that's why I like unified sport. Oh, by the way, I did unified handball in Berlin. I was gassed. I am. Yeah. I got to stick. I think he said you did bowling, and I'm going to go back to bowling. Handball was a workout, but I think all the unified sports, exactly. I think all the unified sports stuff we do is fantastic. At the end of the day, people are just people, right? People might process information differently. They might sort of have different mobility issues or whatever, but and that's why sport's so good, right? Sports is sort of, talk a bit about sport and have a few laughs.
It does, yeah. It helps to when people come into movement, they really see that the sports that we compete in really helps to break down those barriers. Ian?
Mr. Podcast King, thank you for inviting me back today. Absolutely brave of you, considering my performance last time. Really good for the opportunity to be on the podcast shows. I mean, I'm in the middle of creating my own show at the moment. If only I could find a spare room somewhere so I could put the equipment up, which is a nightmare. But we'll save that for another discussion. I think there may be a load of people in Special Olympics during next year when we're doing the Germany Games build up that would be interested in coming on your program. So I will put some across if they're interested. I think with regards to your second question of what inclusion means to me, and this I think is now even more significant in the light of everything going on. Inclusion revolution on a daily basis means that everybody is included with no discrimination, no prejudices, no exclusion, and no sort of being against you can't do this and that and the other. And the other thing that's important to me is a lot of people have been saying to disabled people for years that you should come into our world to see what it's like. But I think, in my view, that is being done the wrong way around. I think the people should go into that person with a disabilities world first to educate, to look and to see the things that are going on and then bring them in, having that full inclusion acknowledgement and knowledge of that as well. And the other thing that is really important to me on the inclusion front is that everyone benefits and everyone is in all levels of society, and it can't be done by management's choices. It has to be the person's choices in life, that the aspirations are there as well. So we could see, more people taking up jobs in management, more people fighting, more people standing for elections in government, more people having access in communities, more people having access to opportunities to everyday life, to housing, to have their own families, to have their own engagements, and to have a unit built around them. And again, without any prejudice, discrimination or fear. And that's what acceptance should be. And it's quite appropriate as well in the middle of this situation with Ukraine that it's even more important that on an everyday basis. So that is important to me, which is that everybody is included without prejudice, fear, or discrimination.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode. I'm gonna usually I don't add on to that question of what the guests say, but I just something I thought of what Lou, you and Ian, what you both said is kind of what I think inclusion means. In addition to what I agree with what both of you said, but in addition to that is looking beyond the labels of intellectual disabilities that we're diagnosed with, where when we're included, people look beyond those labels that our doctors put on us and that the society puts on us. And then when people do, then they're able to see that we bring unconditional love and joy and acceptance to society. And so that's all that is what inclusion means to us.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this was great, guys. I'm happy to do it again. And like I said, anything I can do to help.
I wish we both on this.
I've got to jump. You got to call United, our great partner in Chicago.
Yeah. So thanks for. Thank you all for coming on, and we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you on the next episode.
Stay well, fellas. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit specialchronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit specialchronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of new episodes. Also, subscribe to our newsletter mailing list to sign up for our updates and get exclusive content delivered to your inbox. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Subscribe or follow and rate and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Finally, please share this episode and all of our podcasts with your friends and family. Help us grow our audience and reach 5,000 downloads of our audio podcasts and over 14,000 average monthly listeners. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week with exciting new guests. See you next week.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.